Hey there, and welcome to a deep dive.
A deep dive into
Into a world that feels a bit like,
feels like we hopped into a time machine.
right? Set for like January 11th, 2025. We got a whole stack of Economist articles here
Straight from the future.
from the future, right? And they paint this picture of a world that is both kind of familiar and also wildly unpredictable.
Yeah.
You got Donald Trump back in the White
The
House,
house.
global economies teetering on a tightrope,
Tightrope.
and technology throwing curveballs faster than we can say algorithm.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
It's a lot to unpack.
we're going to break it all down, extract those aha moments.
Find the nuggets.
Yeah, and leave you feeling not just informed, but like ready to navigate whatever the future throws our way.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
That's the goal. What really strikes me about these articles is how they capture this world that's grappling with change, on multiple fronts.
Yeah.
From political upheavals to economic anxieties to even the way technology is reshaping our daily lives. It's a lot to process.
Yeah, for sure. So let's dive right in, and I guess we might as well start with the elephant in the room.
The elephant in the room.
Oh, yeah, which is Donald Trump's return to power.
Yep. Back in the White House.
Yeah. The Economist doesn't really hold back here. They detail his plans for mass deportations, a protectionist stance on trade that has like Canada and Mexico sweating,
Yeah.
and a move that's raising eyebrows globally, which is this apparent interest in buying Greenland.
Greenland.
Greenland, I know what you're thinking, right? Greenland, really?
Oh,
But
yeah.
but the article suggests that this isn't just like a whim.
Not at all.
He actually sees strategic value
Strategic value.
in Greenland's location, its untapped resources. And this is particularly important because the Arctic region is becoming more accessible due to climate change.
Due to climate change. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's a move that could totally reshape the geopolitical landscape.
For sure.
Spark this, like a scramble for resources and potentially put the U.S. on a collision course with other Arctic nations.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And what's so fascinating to me here is how this seemingly outlandish idea connects to the bigger picture of global power dynamics.
Yeah.
Right? Like Trump's America First agenda, as detailed in these articles, it's all about asserting American dominance.
America first.
Even if it means shaking up these long-standing alliances and international norms.
At any cost.
Yeah. And the potential consequences are like far-reaching.
Far-reaching.
Right.
Yeah.
From economic fallout to heightened political tensions.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's all connected.
And for instance, the articles cite this research that suggests that mass deportations, which are a key plank of Trump's platform, could actually backfire economically. They point to the Obama era, where deportations actually led to a slowdown in house building because so many construction workers were undocumented immigrants.
Yeah.
Right? And it's this reminder that these policies don't exist in a vacuum.
They have ripple effects
That's
that
right.
touch every corner of society.
Absolutely.
And it's not just the U.S. that's grappling with this economic uncertainty.
No.
The Economist paints this rather bleak picture of global economic anxieties, from China's stock market woes to the challenges facing Africa's growth. What stands out to you in these kind of global economic snapshots? What connections are you seeing?
Well, what I find particularly striking is this contrast between China and Africa.
Yeah.
On the one hand, you have China, this economic powerhouse,
Yeah.
struggling with a slowing economy and an aging population. And then on the other hand, you have Africa, home to a young and rapidly growing population.
It's a huge difference.
It's a huge difference. In fact, over half the young people entering the global workforce in the coming years will be African.
Wow.
So it's this demographic dividend with immense potential.
Right.
But the articles highlight this really urgent need for a development bargain between political and business elites.
What does that mean? Like a development bargain?
Yeah, so essentially, African leaders need to create an environment where this young population can thrive.
Okay.
Otherwise, this potential could turn into a source of instability.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So you've got these two massive forces, China and Africa,
Right.
both facing these really unique economic challenges that are intertwined with social and political trends. It really underscores this interconnectedness of the global economy and the need for sustainable solutions that address these complex dynamics.
Yeah. And these articles don't just present like the problems, right?
Right.
They offer potential solutions as well.
Of course.
For example, the article on Africa highlights this need for investments in education, infrastructure, and healthcare to unlock the potential of its young population.
Yeah.
It emphasizes the importance of good governance, transparency, and tackling corruption to create a favorable business environment that attracts foreign investment.
Absolutely.
So it's a call to action, right?
A call to action.
For African leaders to prioritize the needs of their people and build a future where everyone can benefit from economic growth.
Exactly.
What I appreciate about The Economist's approach here is that it doesn't shy away from the complexities of these issues. It acknowledges that there are no easy answers and that progress requires collaboration, innovation, and a willingness to challenge the status quo.
It's messy.
Yeah, it's messy.
It's complicated.
Yeah.
And there are no easy solutions.
Yeah, and so even in the face of these daunting challenges, there's this sense of hope and possibility that emerges from these articles.
I agree.
They remind us that we have the power to shape the future, and that even small actions can have this ripple effect across the globe.
Absolutely.
And that brings us to another area where change is afoot, which is the world of technology. Yeah. Innovation is happening at breakneck speed here.
Breakneck speed, yeah.
And The Economist dives into some really fascinating trends, like the potential of training AI models on smaller distributed systems.
It's counterintuitive.
Yeah, I'll admit it's a bit technical.
A little bit.
But stick with me because it has some really mind-blowing implications. Traditionally, training these AI models required massive data centers, consuming huge amounts of energy and resources.
9 data centers.
Yeah, but this article highlights a new approach called DeLoco. Have you heard of this?
Loco. I have. Distributed low communication training of language models.
So essentially, it's a way to train AI models across multiple smaller data centers, reducing this communication burden and making the whole process much more efficient.
Yeah, much more efficient.
It's like taking a massive supercomputer and breaking it down into a network of smaller interconnected computers.
Exactly.
And what's really interesting is that these distributed models might not be as good at the specific tasks that they were trained on.
Yeah.
But here's the kicker. They seem to generalize better when faced with new, unforeseen challenges. Think of it like this. Imagine you have two students, one who only studies from textbooks.
Textbook students.
And another who explores various resources and experiences.
Real world.
The first student might excel in exams, but the second student is likely to be more adaptable and resourceful in real-world situations.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're seeing with these distributed AI models.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
They're developing this broader understanding, becoming more adaptable and capable of tackling a wider range of problems.
Absolutely.
And this has the potential to revolutionize the way we develop and deploy AI, making it more accessible to smaller companies, to researchers, and leading to this whole new wave of innovation.
For sure.
It's a game changer because it challenges our assumptions about how technological progress unfolds, and it opens up a world of possibilities for the future.
I agree.
But it also raises questions about the ethical implications of these advancements. As AI becomes more sophisticated and integrated into our lives, how do we ensure that it's used responsibly and for the benefit of humanity?
Yeah, that's the big question.
Yeah, these are questions that we need to grapple with as we navigate this rapidly evolving technological landscape.
Absolutely. We have to be asking those questions now.
Yeah. And speaking of challenging assumptions, The Economist also tackles this ongoing debate on women in combat, particularly with Donald Trump's defense secretary nominee, Pete Hegseth, wanting to reverse the integration of women in frontline roles. Hegseth's argument, as presented in the articles, is that women are not physically strong enough for combat roles and that their presence undermines unit cohesion.
Yeah.
But The Economist digs deeper, presenting evidence from studies and real-world experiences that challenge these assumptions.
Right, they're looking beyond just one study or one opinion.
For instance, while a U.S. Marine Corps study found that all male units performed better on certain physically demanding tasks, it doesn't negate the fact that there are many women who meet or exceed the physical requirements for combat roles.
Right, there are exceptions to any rule.
Yeah, and the articles also highlight the experiences of countries like Canada, which have had women in combat roles for decades.
For decades, yeah.
Without seeing a decline in unit cohesion.
Yeah.
In fact, studies suggest that with proper training, any perceived differences in bonding between male and female soldiers can be effectively overcome. So it seems like this stance is more rooted in these traditional views of gender roles than in evidence-based reasoning. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think the evidence supports the argument against women in combat, or does it point towards a need to reevaluate our assumptions about gender and capability in the military?
Well, the articles go beyond just presenting these arguments.
Yeah.
They delve into the broader context of this whole debate. They highlight this cultural shift within the military towards greater inclusivity, with discussions about addressing issues like the fit of body armor for women and providing access to menstrual products.
Oh, wow.
These are important steps towards creating a more equitable and supportive environment for all service members.
Yeah.
It's not just about ticking boxes. It's about recognizing that diverse perspectives and talents can strengthen our armed forces. It's about building a military that reflects the society it serves and values the contributions of all its members.
Absolutely.
And this conversation extends beyond the military. It prompts us to consider how traditional gender roles are being challenged across various sectors.
Yeah.
As societal norms evolve, we're seeing a questioning of these long-held assumptions about what constitutes men's work and women's work.
Right.
The rise of automation and the increasing importance of skills like critical thinking, problem solving, and communication are making that traditional emphasis on physical strength less relevant in many fields.
Right.
This shift could open up new opportunities for women in sectors that were previously dominated by men, leading to a more balanced and equitable workforce overall. It's exciting to witness these changes, even if the path towards true equality is still a work in progress.
Yeah, and that's an important point to emphasize, right?
Absolutely.
It's a work in progress.
It's a journey.
Yeah. Now let's shift gears and talk about another industry undergoing a major transformation, the publishing industry. The Economist highlights how technology is disrupting traditional models of book production, distribution, and consumption. The rise of self-publishing platforms, online bookstores, and e-readers has democratized access to publishing, making it easier for authors to reach readers directly without going through the traditional gatekeepers of publishing houses. But this shift has also created new challenges, particularly for established authors and publishers who are struggling to adapt to this rapidly changing landscape.
Absolutely.
The articles mention the decline in print book sales and the increasing dominance of online retailers like Amazon.
Yep.
They also touch upon the issue of piracy and the difficulty of protecting intellectual property in the digital age.
For sure.
It's this complex ecosystem with winners and losers, and it's still unclear how the industry will ultimately evolve.
Yeah, it's a fascinating time to be watching the publishing industry.
What are your thoughts on this? Do you think the digital revolution is a net positive for the publishing industry, or is it eroding the value of traditional publishing?
Well, one trend that stands out in all this is the resurgence of audiobooks.
Oh, yeah.
It seems like people are rediscovering the joy of listening to stories.
Yeah.
And this is partly driven by the convenience of audiobooks. You
Yeah.
can listen while you're commuting, while you're exercising or doing chores, making it easier to fit reading into our busy lives.
Right.
Plus, the quality of audiobook production has improved significantly.
Yeah.
Many audiobooks are now narrated by professional actors or even the authors themselves, adding another layer of depth and engagement to the experience.
It's like having a personal storyteller.
Exactly.
Yeah, and for some people, audiobooks can be more accessible than traditional books, particularly for those who struggle with reading or have visual impairments.
Absolutely.
So it's not just about technological disruption, it's also about expanding access to literature and making it more inclusive. It's a reminder that this love of storytelling is a fundamental human need, one that transcends technological platforms and formats.
For sure.
But technology isn't just changing how we consume stories, it's also influencing the way we express ourselves through fashion.
Interesting.
The Economist's article on fashion highlights the growing influence of streetwear,
Streetwear, yeah.
with sneakers and hoodies making their way from the streets to the runways and the wardrobes of high fashion enthusiasts.
A fascinating trend.
What's interesting about this trend is that it reflects this broader cultural shift towards comfort, authenticity, and self-expression.
Right.
It's about breaking down traditional barriers between high fashion and everyday wear,
Yeah.
embracing individuality, and celebrating the unique styles of different subcultures.
Yeah, it's about expressing yourself.
And with the rise of social media, streetwear has become a global phenomenon with influencers and celebrities playing a key role in shaping trends. Yeah, it's this fascinating example of how culture and commerce intersect with trends emerging from the bottom up rather than being dictated by the fashion elite.
From the street up.
This democratization of fashion challenges our assumptions about what constitutes good taste and high fashion, reminding us that style's personal and that the most important thing is to express yourself authentically.
To be yourself.
Yeah, and to have fun with it. But all this talk of fashion and trends shouldn't distract us from the weightier matters at hand.
Like what?
Like the changing nature of warfare.
Okay.
The Economist has this thought-provoking piece on the increasing use of drones in modern conflict.
Drones are changing everything.
What's striking is the disparity in drone technology between the U.S. and its adversaries. While America's military is still heavily reliant on these expensive manned aircraft, countries like China are rapidly developing and deploying swarms of cheaper, expendable drones.
Yeah, swarms of them.
This raises concerns about whether the U.S. is prepared for a future conflict where drones play this like a dominant role.
A drone war.
Yeah, and the article cites the example of Ukraine, where both sides have used drones extensively, but with very different strategies and capabilities.
Right.
It's a stark reminder that technological advancements can quickly shift the balance of power.
Absolutely.
And it underscores the need for the U.S. military to adapt and innovate if it wants to maintain its edge.
It can't just rest on its laurels.
Yeah, speaking of adaptation, the article on energy infrastructure highlights the massive investments being made to modernize power grids around the world.
Yeah.
It's a supercycle of spending.
Supercycle.
Driven by the need to integrate renewable energy sources, accommodate growing demand, and improve grid resilience in the face of climate change.
Climate change is driving a lot of investment.
Yeah, the surge in investment is creating bottlenecks in the supply chain, particularly for transformers, leading to price increases and longer lead times.
Right.
It highlights the interconnectedness of global markets and the challenges of managing such large-scale infrastructure projects. It's a reminder that this transition to a cleaner, more sustainable energy system is a complex undertaking with both opportunities and challenges.
For sure.
Do you see any parallels between the challenges of modernizing energy infrastructure and the challenges of adapting to a world where drones are increasingly prevalent in warfare?
Absolutely. Both involve grappling with these rapid technological advancements, managing complex supply chains, and balancing competing priorities.
Yeah.
And both require this forward-looking approach that anticipates future needs and invests in solutions that can withstand the test of time.
Yeah. Now let's bring this back to something that affects us all on like a daily basis.
Oh, is that?
Social media.
Social media, right.
The Economist covers Meta's apparent pivot back towards a more permissive approach to content moderation.
Interesting.
It seems like Mark Zuckerberg is trying to position Meta, particularly Facebook, as this champion of free speech in the wake of Donald Trump's return to power.
Okay. He's even replacing Sir Nick Clegg, Meta's global affairs chief, with Joel Kaplan, a Trump ally.
Interesting.
And there's talk of reviving civic content on the platform after years of downplaying political news.
Okay.
This shift is likely to have significant consequences both domestically and internationally.
Huge consequences.
The article mentions the potential conflict with the EU's Digital Services Act, which requires platforms to limit the spread of misinformation.
Right.
So it's this delicate balancing act for Meta, right?
Yeah, look at that.
Trying to appease regulators while also catering to a user base that's increasingly divided along political lines.
Yeah, they're walking a tightrope.
Do you think this shift in Meta's approach to content moderation is a genuine commitment to free speech, or is it a calculated business decision?
It's a question that sparks a lot of debate.
Yeah.
And it highlights this complex relationship between technology, politics, and society.
And speaking of complex relationships, The Economist has this fascinating piece on the growing power of contract manufacturers.
Contract manufacturers, particularly in the tech industry. These companies like Foxconn and Luxshare are responsible for assembling many of the devices we use every day, from iPhones to laptops to gaming consoles.
The companies that make the things we use.
Yeah, and their influence is expanding beyond just manufacturing, with some venturing into new industries like electric vehicles and 5G network equipment.
Interesting.
It's a testament to their expertise in supply chain management and their ability to adapt to evolving market demands.
Absolutely.
But the article also highlights some of the risks they face, like customer concentration and competition.
Okay.
For instance, Foxconn relies heavily on Apple for revenue, while Luxshare is increasingly dependent on NVIDIA for its growth.
Interesting.
This reliance on a handful of major clients makes them vulnerable to shifts in demand or changes in those companies' strategies.
Yeah, too many eggs in one basket.
It's a reminder that even in a globalized economy, interdependence can cut both ways. Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to touch upon one more article that really resonated with me. It's about the growing interest in spirituality and the search for meaning in a world that often feels chaotic and uncertain.
I think that resonates with a lot of people.
Yeah, and the article explores how traditional religions are struggling to connect with younger generations who are seeking more personalized and experiential forms of spirituality.
Yeah.
It highlights the rise of mindfulness practices, meditation apps, and online communities that offer a sense of belonging and purpose.
Right.
What do you think is driving this renewed interest in spirituality? How do you see it shaping the future of our societies?
I think it's a question that deserves deeper exploration, and it's one that I encourage you to ponder as we continue our journey through these fascinating articles.
Yeah, it's a good point.
But for now,
Yeah.
let's take a break and come back refreshed and ready to dive into even more thought-provoking topics in part 2.
Stay tuned.
Welcome back.
It feels like we've already traveled miles across the global landscape, from the icy plains of Greenland to the bustling streets of China's megacities, and we've barely scratched the surface of what these Economist articles have to offer.
Yeah, there's so much more to uncover.
But you know what I love about these deep dives? It's like piecing together this giant puzzle.
It is.
Each article is like revealing a new piece of the bigger picture.
A new clue.
Yeah, and as we delve deeper, we start to see these connections, these patterns, these trends that we might have missed if we were just skimming the headlines.
Absolutely. Context is everything.
Yeah, so let's keep those connections in mind as we dive into the next set of articles, starting with one that really caught my eye, the one about training AI models on smaller distributed systems.
Yeah, that's a fascinating one.
Now, I know AI might sound intimidating to some people,
It can be a bit of a black box.
but trust me, this stuff is fascinating.
He really is.
It's all about pushing the boundaries of what's possible with technology, and this article highlights a truly groundbreaking approach.
Yeah, it's a game changer.
Traditionally, training AI models required massive data centers.
These huge server farms.
Yeah, these behemoths of computing power that consume vast amounts of energy.
Energy hogs.
But this article introduces us to a new method called DeLoco. Have you heard of this?
That's Loco, yeah. Distributed low communication training of language models. It's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful, but what's revolutionary about this is that it allows us to train AI models across multiple smaller data centers,
Right.
reducing the need for those energy-hungry giants.
Exactly. It's a more sustainable approach.
Yeah, think of it like this. Imagine trying to build a skyscraper using only one giant crane.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
It would be slow, cumbersome, and incredibly resource-intensive.
Yeah, not very efficient.
But what if you could use a network of smaller, more agile cranes, each working on a different part of the building simultaneously?
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
That's essentially what DeLoco does for AI training.
It breaks down the task.
It breaks down the task into smaller, more manageable chunks, allowing us to train models more efficiently and with less environmental impact.
And with less energy, which is huge.
And here's where it gets really interesting. These distributed models, while not necessarily as good at specific tasks they were trained on, actually generalize better when faced with new, unforeseen challenges.
Right, they're more adaptable.
It's like they're developing this broader understanding, a kind of AI wisdom that comes from being exposed to a wider range of data and experiences.
Yeah, it's like they're learning from a more diverse set of sources.
This could have profound implications for the development of everyday technologies. Imagine AI assistants that are more adaptable, more intuitive, and better able to understand and respond to our needs.
Yeah, AI that can truly understand us.
It's a glimpse into a future where AI is not just a tool, but a partner, helping us to solve problems, make decisions, and navigate the complexities of a rapidly changing world.
AI is a collaborator.
But as with any powerful technology, there are ethical considerations to keep in mind.
Absolutely, we can't just ignore the potential risks.
As AI becomes more sophisticated and integrated into our lives, we need to ensure that it's used responsibly, ethically, and for the benefit of humanity.
Right, we need to be thinking about the ethical implications from the very beginning.
This article sparked a lot of questions for me about the future of AI, its potential benefits, and the potential risks. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. What do you see as the most exciting possibilities of this distributed approach to AI training? And what concerns or questions does it raise for you?
Well, for me, the most exciting possibility is the potential to democratize AI development.
Yeah.
Right now, AI development is largely concentrated in the hands of a few big tech companies.
Yeah, the Googles, the Metas of the world.
Exactly. But with distributed training, we could see AI development happening in more diverse settings with smaller companies, research institutions, and even individuals having access to the tools and resources they need to create and train their own AI models.
So AI for everyone.
AI for everyone, exactly. And that could lead to a much wider range of AI applications addressing a more diverse set of needs and challenges.
Yeah, I love that idea of AI becoming more accessible.
But of course, with any new technology, there are also potential risks.
Right.
One concern is the possibility of AI being used for malicious purposes, whether it's creating deepfakes, spreading misinformation, or even developing autonomous weapons systems.
Yeah, those are some scary scenarios.
And another concern is the issue of algorithmic bias.
Right.
If AI models are trained on data that reflects existing societal biases, then those biases will be baked into the algorithms and could perpetuate or even amplify those inequalities.
So we need to be mindful of the data that we're feeding these AI models.
Absolutely. The data is a foundation of AI, and if the foundation is flawed, then the whole structure is at risk.
That's a really good point. The ethical considerations are certainly top of mind, and this article doesn't shy away from addressing them.
Yeah, it does a good job of highlighting those concerns.
It highlights the need for transparency, accountability, and ongoing dialogue as we develop and deploy these powerful technologies.
Right. It's not just about the technology itself. It's about how we use it.
It also emphasizes the importance of inclusivity, ensuring that AI development reflects the diversity of human experiences and perspectives.
Yeah, we need to make sure that AI is developed by and for everyone, not just a select few.
But let's shift gears for a moment and talk about another industry that's undergoing a major transformation, the world of beverages.
Okay, beverages. This should be interesting.
Now, you might be thinking, what could possibly be groundbreaking about beverages?
Yeah, it's not usually the first thing that comes to mind when we think about innovation.
But this article highlights a surprising trend, the explosive growth of the alcohol-free beverage market.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
It's not just about teetotalers anymore.
Right, it's going mainstream.
People from all walks of life are embracing alcohol-free options driven by a desire for healthier choices, better sleep, improved well-being, and frankly wanting to avoid those dreaded hangovers.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that.
And the market is responding with a flood of innovative and delicious alternatives that mimic the taste and experience of their alcoholic counterparts.
So it's not just about sugary sodas anymore.
We're talking craft, non-alcoholic beers, sophisticated mocktails, and even alcohol-free spirits that capture the complexity and nuance of the real deal.
Wow, that's impressive.
This trend reflects a broader shift in consumer preferences, a growing awareness of the impact of our choices on our health and well-being.
Yeah, people are becoming more mindful about what they put into their bodies.
It's also about challenging social norms and expanding our options.
Right, who says you can't have a good time without alcohol.
What I find fascinating is that this trend is being driven by both individual choices and broader cultural shifts.
Yeah, it's a combination of factors.
The Surgeon General in the U.S., for example, has been advocating for warning labels on alcohol to highlight its link to certain cancers.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
This increased awareness of the risks associated with alcohol is likely to further fuel the growth of the alcohol-free beverage market.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's a reminder that even deeply ingrained social norms can evolve and change over time.
Absolutely. Things are always changing.
And it begs the question, are we witnessing the beginning of a cultural shift away from alcohol, or is this just a passing trend? What do you think is driving this shift? And how do you see it playing out in the long term?
Well, I think it's a combination of factors, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
There's the growing awareness of the health risks associated with alcohol, the desire for healthier lifestyles, and also a shift in social attitudes towards drinking.
Yeah. I think there's less pressure now to drink in social situations.
Exactly. It's becoming more acceptable to choose not to drink.
And I think the rise of social media has played a role in this as well.
How so?
Well, people are more conscious of their online image.
Yeah.
And they don't want to be seen as being drunk or out of control.
Right. It's all about curating your online persona.
Yeah. So I think we're seeing a shift towards moderation and a more balanced approach to alcohol consumption.
Yeah, it's about finding a healthy balance.
And I think this trend is likely to continue as more and more people become aware of the benefits of reducing their alcohol intake.
Yeah, I think it's a positive trend overall.
I'm curious to see how this trend evolves and what impact it will have on our social lives, our health, and even our economies.
Yeah, it's definitely something to watch.
But let's turn our attention now to a different kind of battle, one that's been raging for centuries, the battle between traditional views of gender roles and the fight for equality.
Okay, a battle that's far from over.
The Economist's article on women in combat delves into this debate, highlighting the arguments on both sides.
Yeah, it's a complex issue.
On one hand, you have those who argue, as does Donald Trump's defense secretary nominee Pete Hegseth, that women are not physically strong enough for combat roles and that their presence undermines unit cohesion.
Right, that's a common argument against women in combat.
They point to studies like the U.S. Marine Corps study that found all male units performed better on certain physically demanding tasks.
Okay.
On the other hand, the article presents evidence from other studies and real-world experiences that challenge these assumptions.
So there's evidence on both sides.
It highlights the experiences of countries like Canada, which have had women in combat roles for decades without seeing a decline in unit cohesion.
Right. Canada has been a leader in this area.
In fact, studies suggest that with proper training, any perceived differences in bonding between male and female soldiers can be effectively overcome.
So it's not about inherent differences, but rather about training and preparation.
The article also points out that the physical demands of modern warfare are changing, with technology playing an increasingly important role.
Yeah, warfare is becoming more technologically advanced.
Strength and stamina are still important, but skills like critical thinking, problem solving, and adaptability are becoming even more crucial.
Right, it's not just about brute strength anymore.
So the question is, are we clinging to outdated notions of what it means to be a soldier, or are there legitimate concerns about the integration of women into combat roles?
It's a tough question.
What I found most striking about this article is that it goes beyond the surface-level arguments and delves into the broader context of this debate.
Yeah, it takes a more nuanced approach.
It highlights the cultural shift within the military towards greater inclusivity, with discussions about addressing issues like the fit of body armor for women and providing access to menstrual products.
Right. Those are practical considerations that are often overlooked.
These are important steps towards creating a more equitable and supportive environment for all service members.
It's about recognizing that everyone has something to contribute.
It's not just about ticking boxes. It's about recognizing that diverse perspectives and talents can strengthen our armed forces.
Yeah, diversity is a strength.
It's about building a military that reflects the society it serves and values the contributions of all its members. And this conversation extends beyond the military, prompting us to consider how traditional gender roles are being challenged across various sectors.
Yeah, it's a societal shift.
As societal norms evolve, we're seeing a questioning of long-held assumptions about what constitutes men's work and women's work.
Yeah, those lines are becoming increasingly blurred.
The rise of automation and the increasing importance of skills like critical thinking, problem solving, and communication are making the traditional emphasis on physical strength less relevant in many fields.
Right, it's not just about brawn anymore.
This shift could open up new opportunities for women in sectors that were previously dominated by men, leading to a more balanced and equitable workforce overall.
Yeah, I think we're moving towards a more inclusive workforce.
It's an exciting time to be witnessing these changes, even if the path towards true equality is still a work in progress.
Absolutely, it's a journey.
And this brings us to another industry that's undergoing a profound transformation of the publishing industry.
Publishing, what's happening there?
The Economist's article on this topic highlights how technology is disrupting traditional models of book production, distribution, and consumption.
Yeah, technology is shaking things up everywhere.
The rise of self-publishing platforms, online bookstores, and e-readers has democratized access to publishing, making it easier for authors to reach readers directly without going through the traditional gatekeepers of publishing houses.
Giving authors more control.
But this shift has also created new challenges, particularly for established authors and publishers who are struggling to adapt to this rapidly changing landscape.
Right, it's a double-edged sword.
The articles mention the decline in print book sales and the increasing dominance of online retailers like Amazon.
Yeah, Amazon is a behemoth in the publishing industry.
They also touch upon the issue of piracy and the difficulty of protecting intellectual property in the digital age.
It's a tough challenge.
It's a complex ecosystem with winners and losers, and it's still unclear how the industry will ultimately evolve.
Yeah, it's a time of great uncertainty for the publishing world.
What do you see as the biggest challenges and opportunities facing the publishing industry in this digital age? Is the decline of print inevitable, or is there still a place for the physical book in our increasingly digital lives?
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges is discoverability.
Okay.
With so many books being published every day, it's harder than ever for authors to get their work noticed. And with the rise of online retailers like Amazon, readers are often overwhelmed with choices, and it's hard to know where to start.
Yeah, it's like information overload.
Exactly. And another challenge is piracy.
Right.
It's so easy to illegally download books online, which cuts into the profits of authors and publishers.
Yeah, it's a real problem.
But I think there are also opportunities in this digital age.
Like what?
Well, for one thing, technology has made it easier than ever for authors to connect with readers directly.
Yeah, through social media, author websites, and email lists.
Exactly. And authors can now build their own platforms and communities without having to rely on traditional publishers.
So they have more control over their work and their careers.
Exactly. And another opportunity is the rise of audiobooks.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier.
Audiobooks are booming, and they're providing a new revenue stream for authors and publishers.
And they're making books more accessible to people who might not be able to read traditional print books.
Exactly. So I think there's a lot of potential for the publishing industry to adapt and thrive in this digital age.
It's about finding new ways to connect with readers and deliver value.
Exactly.
One trend that stands out in all of this is the resurgence of audiobooks.
Yeah, it seems like people are rediscovering the joy of listening to stories.
It's like going back to the days of oral storytelling.
And this is partly driven by the convenience of audiobooks.
Yeah, you can listen to them anywhere, anytime.
You can listen while you're commuting, exercising, doing chores.
Yeah.
Making it easier to fit reading into your busy life.
Right.
Plus, the quality of audiobook production has improved significantly, with many audiobooks now narrated by professional actors, or even the authors themselves, adding another layer of depth and engagement to the experience.
It's like having a personal storyteller.
Exactly. And for some people, audiobooks can be more accessible than traditional books, particularly for those who struggle with reading or have visual impairments.
Yeah, it's opening up the world of literature to a wider audience.
So it's not just about technological disruption, it's also about expanding access to literature and making it more inclusive.
It's a reminder that the love of storytelling is a fundamental human need, one that transcends technological platforms and formats.
Absolutely. Stories are at the heart of who we are.
But let's not forget that technology isn't just changing how we consume stories, it's also influencing the way we express ourselves through fashion.
Okay, fashion. How's technology changing that?
The Economist's article on fashion highlights the growing influence of streetwear, with sneakers and hoodies making their way from the streets to the runways and the wardrobes of high fashion enthusiasts.
Yeah, streetwear is definitely having a moment.
This trend reflects a broader cultural shift towards comfort, authenticity, and self-expression.
Right. It's about being comfortable in your own skin.
It's about breaking down traditional barriers between high fashion and everyday wear, embracing individuality, and celebrating the unique styles of different subcultures.
Yeah, it's about mixing and matching, creating your own unique look.
And with the rise of social media, streetwear has become a global phenomenon, with influencers and celebrities playing a key role in shaping trends.
Social media is a powerful force in the fashion world.
It's a fascinating example of how culture and commerce intersect with trends emerging from the bottom up, rather than being dictated by the fashion elite.
Yeah, it's a democratization of fashion.
What I find particularly interesting about this trend is that it challenges our assumptions about what constitutes good taste and high fashion.
Yeah, it's breaking down those old rules.
It reminds us that style is personal and that the most important thing is to express yourself authentically and to have fun with it.
Exactly. Fashion should be fun.
But amid all this talk of fashion and trends, let's not lose sight of the weightier matters at hand, like the changing nature of warfare.
Okay, back to serious topics.
The Economist's thought-provoking piece on the increasing use of drones in modern conflict raises some serious questions about the future of warfare.
Yeah, drones are changing the face of war.
What's striking is the disparity in drone technology between the U.S. and its adversaries.
Right, there's a growing gap.
While America's military is still heavily reliant on these expensive manned aircraft, countries like China are rapidly developing and deploying swarms of cheaper, expendable drones.
Yeah, it's a quantity versus quality situation.
This raises concerns about whether the U.S. is prepared for a future conflict where drones play a dominant role.
Yeah, the U.S. could be outmatched in a drone war.
The article cites the example of Ukraine, where both sides have used drones extensively, but with very different strategies and capabilities.
Right. It's a real-world example of how drones are changing warfare.
It's a stark reminder that technological advancements can quickly shift the balance of power, and it underscores the need for the U.S. military to adapt and innovate if it wants to maintain its edge.
Yeah, the U.S. can't afford to fall behind in this technological race.
Now, this might seem like a world away from the latest fashion trends or the rise of alcohol-free beverages, but there's a connection here.
What's the connection?
It's about adaptability, innovation, and the need to anticipate and respond to change.
Right. The ability to adapt is crucial in today's world.
Just as the fashion industry is adapting to the rise of streetwear and the beverage industry is responding to the demand for healthier options, the military must evolve to keep pace with the changing nature of warfare.
Yeah, it has to stay ahead of the curve.
Speaking of adaptation, the article on energy infrastructure highlights another area where we're seeing massive change: the modernization of power grids around the world.
Okay, energy infrastructure, that's a big one.
This super cycle of spending is being driven by the need to integrate renewable energy sources, accommodate growing demand, and improve grid resilience in the face of climate change.
Yeah, our energy infrastructure is aging and it needs a major upgrade.
But this surge in investment is creating bottlenecks in the supply chain, particularly for transformers, leading to price increases and longer lead times.
So there are challenges along the way.
It highlights the interconnectedness of global markets and the challenges of managing such large-scale infrastructure projects.
Yes. It's a complex undertaking.
It's a reminder that the transition to a cleaner, more sustainable energy system is a complex undertaking with both opportunities and challenges.
For sure, there will be bumps along the road.
Do you see any parallels between the challenges of modernizing energy infrastructure and the challenges of adapting to a world where drones are increasingly prevalent in warfare?
Absolutely. Both involve grappling with rapid technological advancements, managing complex supply chains, and balancing competing priorities.
Right. It's about managing complexity and uncertainty.
And both require this forward-looking approach that anticipates future needs and invests in solutions that can withstand the test of time.
Yeah, we need to be thinking long-term.
Absolutely, short-term thinking won't cut it in these situations.
But let's bring this back to something that affects us all on a daily basis: social media.
Social media always a hot topic.
The Economist covers Meta's apparent pivot back towards a more permissive approach to content moderation.
Interesting, a shift in strategy.
It seems like Mark Zuckerberg is trying to position Meta, particularly Facebook, as a champion of free speech in the wake of Donald Trump's return to power.
So a more hands-off approach.
He's even replacing Sir Nick Clegg, Meta's global affairs chief, with Joel Kaplan, a Trump ally.
Wow, a big change in leadership.
And there's talk of reviving civic content on the platform after years of downplaying political news.
So a return to the political arena.
This shift is likely to have significant consequences both domestically and internationally.
Yeah, it could have a ripple effect around the world.
The article mentions the potential conflict with the EU's Digital Services Act, which requires platforms to limit the spread of misinformation.
Right. The EU has stricter regulations on content moderation.
So it's a delicate balancing act for Meta, trying to appease regulators while also catering to a user base that's increasingly divided along political lines.
Yeah, they're walking a tightrope.
Do you think this shift in Meta's approach to content moderation is a genuine commitment to free speech or a calculated business decision?
It's a tough question to answer.
Yeah, it's hard to know what their true motives are.
I think it's probably a combination of factors. They're trying to appeal to a wider audience, including those who feel that their voices have been silenced on other platforms.
Yeah, the free speech crowd.
Exactly. But they're also facing pressure from regulators and advertisers who are concerned about the spread of harmful content.
So it's a balancing act between competing interests.
And it's a reminder that social media platforms have a huge amount of power and influence, and that their decisions about content moderation can have real-world consequences.
Yeah, they're not just neutral platforms anymore. They're shaping the way we see the world.
Exactly, and that's why it's so important to be critical consumers of information and to be aware of the biases and agendas that may be at play.
And speaking of complex relationships, The Economist has a fascinating piece on the growing power of contract manufacturers, particularly in the tech industry.
Contract manufacturers. Okay.
These companies like Foxconn and Luxshare are responsible for assembling many of the devices we use every day, from iPhones to laptops to gaming consoles.
The behind-the-scenes players.
Yeah, and their influence is expanding beyond just manufacturing, with some venturing into new industries like electric vehicles and 5G network equipment.
So they're becoming more powerful.
It's a testament to their expertise in supply chain management and their ability to adapt to evolving market demands.
Yeah, they're the masters of efficiency and scale.
But the article also highlights some of the risks they face, like customer concentration and competition.
Okay, what are the risks?
For instance, Foxconn relies heavily on Apple for revenue, while Luxshare is increasingly dependent on NVIDIA for its growth.
So they're vulnerable if those relationships sour.
This reliance on a handful of major clients makes them vulnerable to shifts in demand or changes in those companies' strategies.
Yeah, they're putting all their eggs in one basket.
It's a reminder that even in a globalized economy, interdependence can cut both ways.
Absolutely, it's a two-way street.
Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to touch upon one more article that really resonated with me. The one about the growing interest in spirituality and the search for meaning in a world that often feels chaotic and uncertain.
Yeah, that's a topic that's close to my heart.
The article explores how traditional religions are struggling to connect with younger generations who are seeking more personalized and experiential forms of spirituality.
Right, they're looking for something that speaks to their individual needs and experiences.
It highlights the rise of mindfulness practices, meditation apps, and online communities that offer a sense of belonging and purpose.
Yeah, people are finding new ways to connect with the spiritual dimension.
What do you think is driving this renewed interest in spirituality, and how do you see it shaping the future of our societies?
Well, I think there are a few factors at play.
Okay.
One is the growing awareness of the limitations of materialism.
Right.
People are realizing that material possessions don't necessarily bring happiness or fulfillment.
Yeah, there's more to life than just stuff.
Exactly. And another factor is the increasing pace of change and uncertainty in the world.
Right. The world feels more chaotic and unpredictable than ever.
People are looking for something stable, something to ground them in the midst of all this change.
So spirituality is a way of finding meaning and purpose in a world that often feels meaningless.
Yeah, it's about connecting with something bigger than ourselves.
And I think the rise of social media has also played a role in this.
How so?
Well, social media can create a sense of isolation and disconnection.
Yeah, it can be very superficial.
And people are looking for ways to connect with others on a deeper level.
Right, they're looking for authentic connection.
So I think the search for meaning and connection is driving people towards spirituality.
Yeah, it's a natural human desire.
And I think this trend is likely to continue as the world becomes increasingly complex and interconnected.
I agree. Spirituality will play an increasingly important role in our lives.
It's about finding our place in the world and connecting with something bigger than ourselves. Welcome back for the final leg of our journey through these Economist articles.
The grand finale.
We've covered so much ground already, from Donald Trump's unexpected return and his fascination with Greenland,
Yeah, that was a curveball.
to the complexities of AI and the rise of alcohol-free beverages.
Quite a range of topics.
But there's still so much more to uncover.
Absolutely.
And as we delve into these last few articles, I'm struck by how they all seem to point towards this central theme:
What's that?
the accelerating pace of change.
Yeah, change is the only constant these days.
And the challenges and opportunities it presents.
Right, it's both exciting and a little bit daunting.
We've talked about political upheavals, economic anxieties, technological disruptions, and evolving social norms. But what I find most fascinating is how these seemingly disparate threads are all interconnected,
Yeah, it's all connected.
weaving together this complex and ever-changing tapestry of human experience.
It's like a giant web.
So let's keep that interconnectedness in mind as we explore these final articles, starting with one that really hits close to home for me, the one about the future of work.
Yeah, the future of work is on everyone's mind these days.
The Economist paints a picture of a workforce in flux, shaped by automation, globalization, and the rise of the gig economy.
It's a whole new world of work.
Traditional jobs are disappearing, new ones are emerging, and the skills required to succeed are constantly evolving.
It's a lot to keep up with.
It's a landscape that can feel both exhilarating and daunting, full of possibilities, but also fraught with uncertainty.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag.
What do you think are the most significant challenges facing workers in this rapidly changing landscape? And what steps can individuals and institutions take to navigate these changes and create a more equitable and sustainable future of work?
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges is the skills gap.
Okay.
The jobs of the future require different skills than the jobs of the past, and many workers are finding themselves unprepared for this new reality.
So we need to invest in education and training programs that equip workers with the skills they need to succeed in this new economy.
Absolutely. We need to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to learn and grow.
And we need to create pathways for workers to transition into new roles as their old jobs become automated.
Yeah, we can't just leave people behind.
Another challenge is the erosion of traditional employment benefits like healthcare and retirement savings.
Right. The gig economy is creating a lot of uncertainty and insecurity for workers.
So we need to find new ways to provide these essential benefits to workers who are no longer employed in traditional jobs.
Yeah, we need to rethink our social safety net.
The article highlights the growing importance of lifelong learning adaptability and a willingness to embrace new technologies.
Yeah, those are essential skills for the future.
It also emphasizes the need for stronger social safety nets and policies that support workers through transitions and provide access to training and education.
Right. We need to invest in people.
But beyond the practicalities of skills and policies, the article also raises deeper questions about the nature of work itself.
Like what?
What does it mean to have a fulfilling and meaningful career in a world where automation is displacing traditional jobs? How do we find purpose and value in our work when the very definition of work is constantly changing?
Those are big questions.
These are questions that we need to grapple with as we navigate this new world of work, and they challenge us to rethink our assumptions about what it means to earn a living and contribute to society.
Yeah, we need to redefine what it means to work.
Now let's shift gears and talk about another force that's shaping our world in profound ways: climate change.
Climate change, the biggest challenge of our time.
The Economist article on this topic doesn't pull any punches, detailing the devastating impacts of rising temperatures, extreme weather events, and sea level rise.
Yeah, it's a sobering read.
But amidst the dire warnings, the article also highlights a glimmer of hope: the growing momentum behind the transition to a cleaner, more sustainable energy system.
There's a growing movement for change.
Governments around the world are investing in renewable energy. Businesses are adopting sustainable practices, and individuals are making changes in their daily lives to reduce their carbon footprint.
Yeah, we're seeing action at all levels.
It's a global effort that requires collaboration, innovation, and a commitment to long-term thinking.
Right. We need to think beyond ourselves and our immediate needs.
But as the article points out, the transition won't be easy.
There will be challenges and setbacks along the way.
There will be challenges, setbacks, and tough choices to be made.
But we have to keep moving forward.
And those who are most vulnerable to the impacts of climate change are often the least equipped to adapt.
That's a major injustice.
What do you see as the most promising solutions to the climate crisis? And how can we ensure that the transition to a sustainable future is just and equitable for all?
Well, I think one of the most promising solutions is the rapid development and deployment of renewable energy technologies. Solar, wind, geothermal. These technologies are becoming increasingly cost-competitive with fossil fuels, and they offer a clean and sustainable alternative.
So we need to invest heavily in these technologies and make them more accessible to everyone.
Absolutely. And we also need to address the issue of energy storage.
Right.
Renewable energy sources like solar and wind are intermittent, meaning that they're not always available when we need them. So we need to develop better ways to store energy so that we can use it even when the sun isn't shining or the wind isn't blowing.
That's a crucial piece of the puzzle.
Another promising solution is carbon capture and storage.
Okay.
This technology allows us to capture carbon dioxide emissions from power plants and other industrial sources and store them underground, preventing them from entering the atmosphere.
So it's a way of mitigating the damage that's already been done.
Exactly. It's not a perfect solution, but it could buy us some time as we transition to a cleaner energy system.
The article highlights the need for bold leadership, ambitious targets, and investments in clean technologies.
Yeah, we need to be ambitious and decisive.
It also emphasizes the importance of engaging communities, addressing social inequalities, and protecting those who are most vulnerable.
Right. Climate change is not just an environmental issue, it's a social justice issue.
It's a reminder that climate change is not just an environmental issue, it's a social, economic, and political issue as well. And solving it will require a multifaceted approach that addresses all of these dimensions.
It's a complex problem that requires a holistic solution.
But let's turn our attention now to a force that's often seen as both a solution to our problems and a potential threat: artificial intelligence.
AI, the double-edged sword.
The Economist's article on AI explores the rapid advancements in this field, from self-driving cars to personalized medicine to algorithms that can write poetry and compose music.
It's amazing how far AI has come in such a short time.
It's a world where machines are becoming increasingly capable of performing tasks that were once thought to be the exclusive domain of humans.
Yeah, AI is blurring the lines between human and machine.
And while this raises exciting possibilities for innovation and progress, it also sparks concerns about job displacement, algorithmic bias, and the potential for AI to be used for malicious purposes.
Right. There are both benefits and risks to consider.
What excites you most about the potential of AI? And what concerns or questions does it raise for you?
Well, one of the things that excites me most about AI is its potential to solve some of the world's most pressing problems,
Okay.
like climate change, disease, and poverty. AI can help us to analyze vast amounts of data, identify patterns, and develop solutions that we might not have been able to come up with on our own.
So it's a powerful tool for good.
But of course, there are also potential risks.
Right.
One concern is the possibility of AI becoming so intelligent that it surpasses human control.
The classic science fiction scenario.
Exactly. And another concern is the potential for AI to be used for malicious purposes, like creating autonomous weapon systems or developing surveillance technologies that erode our privacy.
Yeah, those are some scary scenarios.
So we need to be very careful about how we develop and deploy AI.
We need to make sure that it's aligned with our values and that it's used for the benefit of humanity.
Absolutely. AI should be a tool that serves us, not the other way around.
The article acknowledges these concerns, highlighting the need for ethical guidelines, responsible development, and ongoing dialogue about the implications of AI for society.
Yeah, we need to have a conversation about these issues as a society.
It also emphasizes the importance of human oversight, ensuring that AI remains a tool that we control, not a force that controls us.
Right, we need to stay in the driver's seat.
But perhaps the most profound question raised by the article is this. What does it mean to be human in an age of intelligent machines? How do we define our own value and purpose when machines are becoming increasingly capable of performing tasks that we once considered uniquely human?
That's a question that philosophers have been wrestling with for centuries.
And it's a question that's becoming increasingly relevant as AI becomes more sophisticated.
It challenges us to think about what it means to be human.
Now, before we conclude our deep dive, I want to circle back to a theme that's been woven throughout these articles, the idea of interconnectedness.
Yeah, everything is connected.
We've seen how political decisions in one country can have ripple effects across the globe, how economic trends are intertwined with social and environmental factors, and how technological advancements are shaping the very fabric of our societies.
It's all part of a larger system.
It's a reminder that we live in a complex and interconnected world, and that our actions, no matter how small, can have far-reaching consequences.
Yeah, we're all in this together.
So as you continue to explore these ideas and engage with the world around you, keep that interconnectedness in mind.
It's an important perspective.
Ask yourself how the trends we've discussed might impact your life, your community, and the world at large.
Right. Think globally, act locally.
And consider what role you can play in shaping a future that's just sustainable and fulfilling for all.
Yeah, we all have a part to play.
And with that, we've reached the end of our deep dive into these thought-provoking economist articles from the future.
It's been a fascinating journey.
We've explored a wide range of topics, from the political landscape and the global economy to the latest advancements in technology and the evolving social and cultural trends that are shaping our world.
It's given us a lot to think about.
And as we've seen, the world is changing at an unprecedented pace, but amidst all the uncertainty and upheaval, there's also a sense of hope and possibility.
Yeah, there's a lot to be optimistic about.
We have the power to shape the future and to create a world that's more just sustainable and fulfilling for all.
It's up to us to make it happen.
I hope this deep dive has inspired you to stay curious, to keep learning, and to engage with the world around you with a sense of purpose and possibility.
And to remember that we're all connected.
Thanks for joining us, and until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and keep those aha moments coming.